Afternoon. Thanks for joining us today for our ruler information session on enhancing student educator well-being. We're so happy that you're with us. So today's session will run us about a half hour, and it's really meant to be an interactive session. We want to hear from you. So please use the Q&A feature either at the bottom or the top of your screen with the comment bubbles, but also use the chat to interact with us. We're going to be asking you some questions. We are recording, and we'll share that with you along with the slides by the end of this week. Today, we really want to understand what your school's goals are, and in return, we'll share more about Ruler, how it's implemented, and what options are available. So, who is we? So my name is Erin Bruff, and I am a former student. When I was in school, social emotional learning was not formalized. My life growing up would have been really different if it had been. So it's my personal mission, along with my colleagues here who are joining me today, to ensure that students and educators have the skills that they need to use their emotions as information to meet their personal goals. And I am joined by Dr. Marc Brackett, who's the founding director of the Yale Center for Emotional Intelligence. Marc's story about how he came to be who he is today is very inspiring, and we're pleased to have him as our speaker. Marc, I'm going to hand it over to you.
All right, thank you, Erin. And good morning or afternoon to everyone out there. I'm coming to you today actually from one of our schools that does ruler in California, and excited to be here with all of you. I'm hoping that the chat works, and so if everyone, I'd love to know who is in the room. So can we just take 10 seconds and maybe just share, your name will show up obviously if you share it with everyone, but maybe your role or background, just very quickly. So I see Gail's coming, who's from Empowerment Factory, really cool, in Rhode Island. We have Gideon from Stamford, Connecticut. Welcome. We got a local. I got New Bedford, Mass. Hello. High school dean of students, social worker. Nice to meet you. We got Fairhaven, New Jersey. Superintendent Sean. I'm from Clifton, New Jersey. So it's a nice coincidence. We got Portland, Maine. We got Colorado. We got hello, Marin Country Day. Love that area of California. We got North Carolina. I don't know what SMUS stands for. Maybe you can share it. We got more from California. Idaho. Nice to see you. I was just in Idaho. Illinois. Awesome. Well, it's lovely to see everybody today. And we're going to jump into our kind of conversation. So if we can just go that. You know, we have superintendents, we've got heads of school, we've got principals, we've got educators. You all decided to spend a half hour with us at Yale talking about feelings and social and emotional learning. So I'm really curious if you could just share in a phrase, very briefly, like one of your big hopes that you get out, from today's session. What are you hoping to learn? What are you hoping to get out of it? So that I can make sure to address your needs and interests. Just take 30 seconds. A hope, a dream, application in the classroom.
Yeah, you're willing
Aaron,
to.
why don't you share out what they're saying?
Yeah, of course. How do we get started at implementing Ruler at school? Training our team. This would be new. So more about how that classroom curricula fits in, specifically with special ed, whether it makes sense for us to participate in ruler training for more faculty and staff. We see some of our schools return and train more teams, learn more about implementation and long-term support, how to create a comprehensive, consistent, and effective approach to SEL instruction and support community-wide, and just overview implementation model and how it's tiered for student support, how it would be implemented, and cost, which is always the key question. So
Yeah.
Marc, we'll get to all of that.
Yeah, I think those are great questions and align with what our goals are today. So thank you. Let's go to the next slide. So just to give you a little bit of history of Ruler, Ruler has been at the Yale Center for Emotional Intelligence for over 20 years. And it actually started way earlier than that, probably 20 years before that, by my uncle, who was a former middle school educator and counselor. It wasn't a formal program at that point, but I was blessed to have learned from him and hence have a whole career focused on this work. Um, I'm proud to say that as of this year, we have reached 5 million students, over 200,000 educators, and 5,000 schools here in the United States and in 33 countries, which is kind of mind blowing. Just to share my feelings in terms of, the idea that something that we've created at our university now has reached that many different countries and languages. My book alone now is in 30 languages, and so it's pretty cool. And now let's get into the details. So if you know about Ruler and you know me, then you know there's a tool that we call the mood meter that everybody's got to master. And so we're going to just take 2 seconds today to do a quick check-in on our feelings. As you can see here, there is an x-axis and a y-axis. X-axis is pleasantness, y-axis is energy or activation. And we've got 4 quadrants that divide those the box. We got yellow, red, blue, and green. So in the chat, I just want to see, as a teacher right now with 30 or so students, I'm gonna be curious about how my students are feeling. So I'm gonna give you about 3 seconds. First thing that comes to mind, and your mood state right now. Are you high energy yellow, low energy but pleasant green, or somewhere unpleasant, and the red or blue? So we've got some in the red, so maybe a little stress, anxiety, some yellow, some blues, somewhere between yellow and green. Okay. Got a lot of green people, a little bit of red. Okay, thank you for that. And so here's a great example of how emotions are important. I've got a student population here of educators who are some in the yellow, some in the green, some in the blue, some in the red. And in a traditional curriculum, we would ignore that information. It just doesn't matter. We're just going to move on. But as an emotion scientist, I'm saying to myself, what's my goal for the learning right now? What emotion might be best helpful for my students to learn what I'm about to teach them? Are they there? Are they not there? And what's the strategy to help get them there if they're not there? That was a mouthful, but I think you get what I'm getting at. Now, of course, we can't walk around the world saying yellow, blue, red, green. We need language. So now I'm going to ask you to convert your quadrant to a feeling word very quickly. What's your feeling word? Let's go. You got 3 seconds. 2, 1. Engaged, tired, excited, eager, peaceful. Glad the day is over. I guess you're somewhere on the other coast. Curious, pumped up. Nice. Drained. Yeah, it's getting to that holiday season. End of November, beginning December, never, usually a lot of drained. Okay. And so now your question is, is how you're feeling going to be helpful for the next 20 or so minutes or unhelpful? If it's helpful, what are you going to do to maintain that state? If it's not helpful, what strategy might be supportive for you to get the most out of our time together? So just take a moment. Think about that. What's your personal regulation strategy? Now, this is not a training, so we can't go into a lot of detail and time on this, but this is the process of what we do with Ruler. We're helping people go to or from radical self-awareness, like really knowing how they're feeling, to understanding those feelings, to having strategies to regulate those feelings to achieve goals in life. And those goals are academic goals, those goals are well-being goals, those goals are relationship goals. And so we're going to go to the next slide now and just talk very briefly about, why are we here? And it's very funny. In this book that I wrote, which is called Permission to Feel, the chapter that's called Emotions or Information had 800 scholarly references. And the editor was saying, like, Mark, we can't, like, that's like 30 pages of just stuff in the back of the book, with references. And I said, yeah, that's right. Because we're going to make sure that what we write is there's no argument that like emotions matter for everything. And so today's not the day to learn all of that. But what I'm here to tell you is that how we feel and how you feel and how your students feel drives everything. Attention, memory, and memory. So if you're drained right now, that's probably impacting your ability to focus. If you're stressed out about the holiday season or stressed out about getting the end of the year done or whatever you got to do, your brain is going to attend to that. It's going to be focused on, oh my gosh, I'm overwhelmed. I'm freaking out. I got to get all this done. It's hard to be present. The same thing applies to decision making. Very quickly, we've done research at our center where we show how different mood states literally impact how teachers evaluate their students. And people, oh, no, I'm objective. I'm like, I'm sorry. Here's the research. When you're in a good mood, you look this way, you sound this way, you think this way. When you're in a negative mood, you think this way and you judge this way. And that's happening. You have to be aware of that. Where emotional intelligence comes in is being aware that I'm feeling this way and about to do that evaluation or make that judgment and say, hold on a minute. Is this my feeling or is this the objective reality? The third is relationship quality. Think about this. Emotions are signals to approach or avoid. So our teachers, our own facial expressions, body language, vocal tone are endlessly sending signals. I'm here for you. I'm not here for you. I feel like I have more power than you. I feel like we're in this together. Physical and mental health and performance. One thing I'm going to ask you to think about is how many of you have ever worked? Give me a yes in the chat if the following is true. How many of you have ever worked with a teacher or a student who you knew had all of the capabilities in the world, but couldn't get out of their own way because of how they dealt with feelings? Every day. Yeah. I mean, the university that we work at has a reputation, right? Everybody's smart. And that's a no-brainer. I know everybody's smarter than I am, actually. But the question is, why doesn't everyone achieve their goals? And it's not because of their cognitive abilities. It's because they can't deal with the emotions, the frustration, the anxiety, the feedback, the stress. What our research shows is that's a major factor in whether or not people achieve their goals in life. I'm just curious, does that resonate with you? Give me a capital YES if that makes any sense to you, that real skill of being able to manage emotions matters.
Oh, wow.
Okay. The principal of the school just walked in. Anyhow, so I think we're all on the same page here. You all get it. And now we'll just go to the next slide, which is, okay, so then the big question is, what do we do with all these feelings? How do we manage them? How do we understand them better? And of course, if you decide to go through the rule of training, you'll learn about these underlying skills of emotional intelligence and how to cultivate them. But what we know is that there are 5 skills. It's about recognizing one's own and others' emotions accurately, understanding why we have our feelings and where they come from, labeling them with precise words, knowing how and when to express those emotions with people and across culture and context, and having the ability to regulate them. And so that's a framework, and all of the curriculum that we've built for Ruler, whether it's for leaders, teachers, students, or families, is all built upon the notion that you can cultivate these skills across development. But importantly, the adults who are raising and teaching kids need to be the best possible role models. And now we'll go on to the details. So phase 1 of Ruler looks like this. You can just bring out the whole thing. First, you're here now to say, like, do I like this guy? Do I like this center? Do I want to work with this program? That's today or over the next few weeks. If you decide to move forward, we are a trainer of the trainer model, which means that we help you to select the right people from your school, from your district to go through the training. Usually it's 3 to 5 people. They attend a Ruler Institute and we teach them all the content and also how to do planning. Then we go into staff training for the first year generally, though that's flexible based on the needs of your school, but we have learned that the adult development piece is critically important. And then at the end of that year is the time for classroom planning. But I'll just share that that piece came, after many years of research, which was that when we only provided schools with curriculum and didn't work with the adults themselves, we didn't have as great outcomes. And it's, guess what? None of us got an emotion education when we were growing up. So how could we expect implementation to be at a high level? Yes, Kevin, we do measure that, and we have lots of different assessment tools to support you. In particular, we're working on and have just finished a new whole assessment for the adult's well-being, and how you can track that over time longitudinally for many, many years. Next slide, please, Erin. And so there are tools within Ruler. The first tool we call the charter, which is all about focusing on the emotions that we want to experience more in our schools. So it's really focused on what we call ideal affect, the culture and climate of our schools and our classrooms. The mood meter, which I introduced to you already, about self-awareness and learning the skills. The meta moment is our tool for helping people manage those really difficult emotions. And the blueprint we focus on, which is to build perspective taking skills, interpersonal problem solving skills, and empathy, which is more of a tool around conflict resolution. Next slide. And so that first year of staff development, there's these modules. So we want everyone to have a common language within your school or district. So they're learning the science of emotions, the skills of emotional intelligence, these tools of Ruler. And very importantly, you really want to build that common language. So this is an example of the charter tool, which is how we want to feel. The woman on the right is, her name is Dawn DaCosta. She is the deputy superintendent of Harlem Public Schools in New York and has been working with us for a decade. This is actually her district team charter. So she's got 20-something schools under her auspices. And so she's worked with the leaders of the schools to find out what they want to feel and how they want to feel working together with her. And that's in the service of doing this Ruler work at every school within the district. Next slide. So the way the packages and all that kind of stuff is, we have virtual coaching for schools, meaning you work with our Ruler team members to help you do the rollout in the best way possible. There's educational webinars, and we even have a yearly implementation conference at the university that's also done virtually, but people love coming, where we work together, with schools across the world to showcase the best implementations. Next slide. So phase 2 of Ruler is focused on, now we've gotten the adults in the community understanding the concepts. It's time now to really work at the classroom level implementation. And so again, all the resources are in our Ruler online platform. There's additional training and coaching on those particular resources. And now the classroom instruction happens. Importantly, the adult development never stops. Just curiosity, how many of you have ever had a year where you struggled a little bit with your feelings? Anyone? Maybe this last year, maybe 4 years ago in 2019, 20 with the pandemic. And so how many of you feel like it's like a one and done, like we've got this? If you feel that way, I hate to tell you this, you are wrong, because this really is life's work. And one of the things that we do help schools with is realize that there is always an opportunity for the adults to grow emotionally. And so what does that look like across time? The school I'm at right now has been doing Ruler for a decade. And I just got done having meetings with all the different teachers and faculty. And it's fascinating. They're struggling now with bullying, that they haven't had this issue before. But for example, the middle school here is really struggling with bullying among young girls. And so that's a thing they're tackling right now. So they need the adult supports for more resources in that space and more resources to support the children in that space. And that's what Ruler's about. Life, there's pandemics, there's elections, there's whatever, there's changes, and we want to make sure that we're providing that continuous ongoing supports for schools and making it relevant to the times that we're in. All right, next slide, please. So these are just examples of the Ruler tools. Actually, didn't know this, but the school that I'm in right now, that is one of the 5th grade charters. And so this is where the students are talking about how they want to feel as students and what they're going to do to create that climate. So this is great. It's like we, the 5th grade students, want to feel comfortable, confident, creative, focused, ecstatic, respected, and challenged. It's kind of impressive when you think about it. And then the question is, all right, well, what do we do to create those feeling states? Next slide. And these are just other examples. We have another tool, as you heard, the best self or the meta moment. So these are kids thinking about the self they want to be. This is the blueprint tool where they're looking at character analyses and really problem solving. And then next slide. This is the classroom level resources. So people were asking, all right, what does the curriculum look like? Well, there's curriculum around the 4 tools of Ruler. And then there's curriculum to really embed what we call feeling words into the curriculum. And so at the elementary level, there's a lot of focus on building out the mood meter tool with grade level words to help kids really unpack and understand emotions. So going from sad to disappointment to despair to hopeless, from happy to elated to ecstatic, from calm to content to tranquil to feeling serene, or from peeved to irritated to angry to enraged, and really understanding that nuance and understanding where those feelings come from, and then doing that through literature, through social studies lessons where they infuse these words into the curriculum, engage in problem solving, character analyses, and then work through other exercises, for example, on how to better deal with those emotions. Next slide. And by the way, I didn't get to this, but those curricular elements are different across grade levels, and they spiral in terms of the expectations. There's a whole bunch of family resources. We find that when we work with families, one of the things that's really worked well is students becoming their parents' teachers. Literally, they go home and teach their parent the mood meter, or they teach their parent a new word. I'll give you the best example for me recently. I was visiting another school last week in New York City, and I did a lesson with the 4th graders on excitement versus elation. And their goal was to go home and quiz their parents if they knew the difference between excitement and elation. And more importantly than that, they were teaching their parents about the value of savoring pleasant emotions. So they had to come up with a way of having a conversation about why would it be important to kind of preserve or maintain those pleasant emotions. It was powerful. I'll just share at the end that I asked these children at the end of the lesson, like, what did they think was so valuable about the lesson? Or did it, what was their take home? And this one 4th grade girl, she looks at me, she's like, I think I learned a new form of empathy today. That kind of blew my mind. I'm just going to say, like, that she saw that empathy is not just about supporting someone's misfortune, but also helping other people to savor their pleasant experiences. All right, next slide. So we know from a lot of research that Ruler has impact among students, educators themselves, and schools. So that's the research we've done and continue to do. We're running big experiments now at the high school level. Lots of going on there, but all the outcomes that you would hope for, we have seen in our own and others' research. Next slide. So I know we only got about 5 minutes. The package for Ruler is professional development, as I shared earlier. There's coaching, as I shared. There's access to for the entire team to all the online resources. There's webinars, there's newsletters, and then we have our conference every year. But the model really is about getting that team trained, creating a really comprehensive, clear rollout plan, building that plan, implementing that plan for the adults, and then working for the next year on doing the classroom level work, and then continuing in terms of improvement. You know, think of it as a continuous improvement model. Next slide. So this is what it looks like. Either come to virtual or online training. You can come to the trainings at Yale. And if you're a larger school system or district, we can come to you. And the pricing is right there. It starts at around $6,000 for a school to come to Ruler training. Online, it's $7,500 in person. Those are online. It's over the course of 6 weeks. At Yale, it's an on-site 2-day, pretty intensive training. And next slide. And then ongoing, after year 3, we have a model where you can subscribe to the Ruler system or the Ruler community. And that gives you additional access to, you know, continuous curriculum, ongoing virtual coaching sessions, more newsletters, and discounts to come to our conference. And so I'm going to pause there because I think we're at the end. We've got about 3 or 4 minutes. Just want to make sure that I got to your, I think I covered the questions that came up front, but I want to make sure I can answer any questions you might have. Please just bring them up in the chat, and happy to stay even a couple minutes longer if necessary to kind of get through your questions.
So Tracy is asking if there are sample lessons that we can send. Absolutely, Tracy. As a follow-up, we're going to send you an entire webpage that includes sample lessons from pre-K, elementary, lower and upper elementary, middle, and high school. Kathleen, is it $1,000 per school? For the ongoing subscription, 3 years and beyond, yes, it is $1,000 per school. That pricing does not change dependent on how many students you have or how many educators you have.
It's just a site-based
Right.
model. For larger districts, you know, when you're building on we build out a separate thing. There are more dates, Susan. Do you have those in front of you, Erin, by any chance, in terms of training dates?
I do. There are a lot, however. So we have training dates upcoming in March, January, March, July, October, and December of next year. I will send all of those dates as a follow-up to this session. Danielle, the training cost is per team, not per person. So the training cost will vary depending on how many folks you send to the training, and we'll also send that along as well. And keep in mind that that training package, it includes the training, but also all of those package elements that Mark spoke about. So the coaching, the access to our online platform, support webinars, and then discounts to our annual conference.
Yeah, so just to recap, the way we work is the training is site for a site, a whole school, meaning that you as a principal, if you're a principal, decide, okay, we're going to do Ruler. Wonderful. We work with you to select the team that either goes for the online training or it comes to the in-person training. And that team goes through the training, and then that team gets coached on how to implement Ruler in the school. And everyone at the school also gets access to every resource, digital tools, like you have a digital mood meter. If you're a principal, you could have everyone in the school plot themselves in the mood meter and you can see how everybody's feeling, for example. And then that $6,000, which is the lowest cost for the online training, is for 2 full years. And then following that, to stay kind of connected to the center, to get other resources, we're building out new resources all the time. It's $1,000 for the whole school.
And thanks, Miriam, for putting that link in the chat. If your school is interested, these are our 2 closest training dates that are coming up. So January 13th through February 21st is our 6-week online session. And then the in-person training is March 10th through 11th right here at Yale. So if you're interested in either one of those, You can scan that QR code. It's going to bring you to the page that actually lists all of our training opportunities for the upcoming year.
Any other questions? I know that we're at time, but can take one more if there's anything else that's come up.
Okay, so there was a question. We have a lot of smaller schools, and can we roll them together to be part of a larger school? Please reach out to us because we can take a look at your situation, how many folks are in your school, and see what we can do with those packages. So I encourage you to contact us at rulertraining@yale.edu right here. I'll include that in the follow-up email so that you can email us directly. Also in the follow-up materials, just want to make sure you all know the recording of this session, the information about training again, the implementation guide. So what's in the guide that you receive after training so that you can bring it back to the school and implement it with your staff. And then sample lessons, as I had mentioned. We're also really interested in learning a little bit more about you and your goals. So if you could scan that QR code and complete very, very quick questionnaire, we'd love to learn more about you. So the
Yeah.
link, the website, Kimberly, is rulerapproach.org, and you can navigate to that and poke around and see everything that we have to offer.
And I see the one question about Ruler and Castle. So Ruler is a Castle Select program. I'm actually on the board of Castle, and our executive director, Karen, is the former president and CEO of Castle. So we're Castleized. But if without getting too nerdy about this, it's actually the reverse question, because the science of emotional intelligence that we built at Yale was the foundation for the Castle competencies. And so self-awareness, social awareness is about the recognition of emotion, understanding of emotion. And then emotion management and relationship management is all about the regulation pieces. And then the decision-making piece really is an outgrowth of those skills, just to give the simple response. All right, well, Erin, thanks for doing this with me.
Thank you,
Good
Mark.
on the East Coast. And there is a separate application for the high school research project. So you can write to us about that and we'll get that to you. And just want to say thank you for showing up to learn more about Ruler. I know that I've met some of you in the past at conferences, and we're delighted to work with you and look forward to seeing you at a training in the future. And on that note, I will say, may all your feelings be with you. And have a great rest of the day, everybody. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Mark.
Thank you. Be well, everybody.